Hey there, fellow investors, and welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. We love to unpack the companies making waves, and today we're diving into one that's been on a bit of a roller coaster ride. Merck, ticker symbol MRK.
Yeah, Merck, it's a really interesting one for sure. Great financials, strong earnings, revenue growth looking good. But then you see the stock price has dipped over the past year. It's kind of a head scratcher.
Yeah, so you sent me some research on him.
I did.
Let's break it down and try to figure out what's going on. What's the deal with Merck?
Let's do it.
So the stock price is down 15.9% over the last year.
Right.
Which, on the surface seems a little strange when you look at their performance. Their pharmaceutical division especially is doing extremely well.
It is.
So is the market just undervaluing Merck? Or is there something that investors are seeing that we're not?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, sometimes the market, reacts emotionally. Sometimes it sees things that we don't see, so we need to look at the company's performance internally, but also those external forces as well.
And you gave us a great starting point with the Q4 2024 earnings report. EPS jumped to $1.45, up from $1.35 the previous quarter.
That's right.
Total revenue, $12.7 billion.
Yeah, those are impressive numbers.
Yeah.
And you think about what that could mean for an investor. If we interpret this correctly, that could be a good return.
And it's even more encouraging when you consider the context of the entire pharmaceutical industry. It's projected to grow 6% in 2025. So Merck isn't just doing well in a bubble. They're outperforming a lot of their competitors in a market that's actually rapidly expanding.
Right.
Which is a pretty attractive position to be in, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you always want to look at the macro picture. What is the sector doing as a whole? If the sector's doing well and a company is doing even better, that's where, you might want to dive in a little deeper.
Exactly. So what's fueling this growth? What's making them so special? Yeah. Well, Merck is known for its innovation, right? Particularly in areas like oncology and infectious diseases. And they've got some promising drugs in their pipeline. So that could be a big factor attracting investors.
Oh, absolutely. Investors want to see companies that are thinking forward, that are looking to the future. And Merck is doing that through research and development. Plus, they've also got a growing animal health portfolio, which adds another layer of kind of diversity to the business model. It makes it a little bit more resilient.
Right. So diversifying and going into that new market is always a smart move, especially when it's something like animal health, which is a growing sector.
Absolutely.
But here's the catch, right?
Okay.
Even with all this good news, the stock price is being dragged down by the overall bearish trend in the market.
Right.
So that begs the question, is this just a temporary dip? Or is this a sign of something a little more concerning?
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting.
Right. And that's where I think the research that you sent really comes into play. We need to look at the technical indicators and see if we can get a clearer picture. So currently, Merck is trading at $98.83.
Okay.
But some short-term predictions have it dropping to $93.38 by early March. So that's a dip of over 5%, which, that's a pretty significant drop.
Yeah. You also highlighted something called a death cross on the charts. Now, I know technical analysis can be a little intimidating.
It can be.
So let's break this down for our listeners. Can you explain what a death cross is and why it's causing concern here?
Yeah, so the death cross, it's a term used in technical analysis when a short-term moving average, like the 50-day moving average, crosses below a long-term moving average, like the 200-day moving average. It's often seen as a bearish signal, suggesting that selling pressure is increasing and a downtrend could be coming.
So not the most cheerful sign.
Not really. We're also seeing the MACD below the signal line as well.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through what that means?
Yeah, so the MACD, which stands for Moving Average Convergence Divergence, is another momentum indicator. When it's below the signal line, like we're seeing now, it's suggesting that the downward momentum is getting stronger. So both the death cross and the MACD are kind of flashing warning signs, for the short-term outlook at least.
So it seems like we're getting these mixed signals, right?
Right.
Strong fundamentals.
Yeah.
But concerning technical indicators.
Yeah.
It's like this tug of war between the company's performance and the market's perception.
Yeah, it can be confusing, for sure.
It's enough to make anyone's head spin.
For sure.
You also highlighted the Fear and Greed Index in your notes, which is currently sitting at 39.
Right.
Could this be a good thing for a potential investor?
What's interesting, the Fear and Greed Index tries to gauge the market sentiment. A reading of 39 puts us firmly in fear territory, which suggests that maybe the market is overreacting to broader economic concerns. Now, this could be an opportunity for savvy investors who believe in Merck's long-term potential and are willing to, kind of take a contrarian approach.
So maybe this fear could actually be a good thing.
It could.
It's definitely making things interesting. So we've got these technical indicators flashing caution, but then again, we've got a company with solid financials.
Right.
And a stock that's currently trading 5.83% above the predicted price of $93.38.
Yeah.
So is the market missing something? Is Merck actually undervalued right now?
That's the question, isn't it? That's the big question. It's a puzzle we're trying to solve. So let's dive into the specifics of Merck's operations and their future prospects and see if we can find some more clues.
One thing that really stands out in the research you gave me is Merck's focus on oncology.
Oh,
It's a
cool.
huge market,
Right.
huge growth potential, and they're making some serious moves in that space. That could be a major factor in their future success, don't you think? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They've got some very promising drugs in development targeting various types of cancer.
Right.
And, if those trials are successful, they get regulatory approval.
Yeah,
That could lead to a significant surge in Merck's revenue
for sure.
and really drive that stock price up. And this is right up your alley. You're always talking about investing in companies that are making a real difference in the world.
I do.
And this is a prime example.
It is, and I think a lot of investors overlook this. They get so caught up in those short-term fluctuations
Right.
that they forget to look at what long-term impact a company can have. And Merck's commitment to oncology research, not only is it potentially profitable, but it aligns with this growing societal focus on healthcare innovation, which is something I'm always looking for.
So it's like they have multiple engines driving their growth.
Exactly.
On the one hand, you've got the established pharmaceuticals bringing in that consistent revenue.
Right.
Then you've got the oncology division, which is, potentially on the verge of a breakout.
Huge potential.
And then let's not forget about the steadily expanding animal health segment.
Right.
It's a diversified portfolio that could really pay off for investors who are patient and willing to ride out this volatility that we're seeing in the market.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Patience is key, especially when you're dealing with a company like Merck that's operating in such a complex market and an ever-evolving market. It's easy to get spooked by those short-term price swings, but the real rewards, they go to those who can see that long-term potential and stay the course.
Okay, so for our listeners who are interested in Merck, what are the key takeaways that they should be keeping in mind as they do their own research? What are the biggest points that jumped out at you?
Well, I think the first and most important thing is to understand that Merck is a fundamentally strong company
Okay.
with a really bright future. They're financially sound.
Yeah.
They're innovating in key growth areas like oncology, and they've got that diversified business model
Right.
that can weather, these market storms. That's a solid foundation for any investment.
But they're not immune to these broader market trends. Right.
Yeah.
We've got that bearish sentiment kind of hanging over everything.
Yeah.
And, those technical indicators that we talked about, the death cross, the NCD,
Right.
they're suggesting that some caution is warranted.
Yeah, precisely. It's all about balance, right?
Yeah.
The company's strong performance and those promising developments that you mentioned suggest that the current stock price might be a really good entry point for a long-term investor.
Okay.
However, that overall market volatility, it means it's not a slam dunk decision, especially for someone like you who's looking for steady growth with manageable risks.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about that risk versus reward equation.
Exactly.
And with Merck, it seems like it's a little more complex than usual.
It is.
Based on what we've discussed, it's probably not the best stock for those looking to make a quick buck.
Right.
But for those who believe in the company's long-term vision
Yeah.
and they're willing to potentially ride out some ups and downs,
Right.
it could be a very rewarding investment.
It could.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the current recommendation from Merck is to hold.
Yes.
What would make you change that recommendation to a buy?
That's a great question. For me, it would come down to a combination of factors. First, I'd want to see those oncology drug trials deliver some positive results.
Okay.
That would signal a major catalyst for growth.
Okay.
Second, I need to see the overall market sentiment shift a bit, maybe some easing of those bearish trends that we talked about.
Right.
And then finally, I'd be looking for a dip in the stock price, maybe even below that predicted 93.38 level.
Okay.
If those three things aligned, I would say that risk-reward equation becomes a lot more favorable.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we need to keep a close eye on those oncology trials,
Yeah.
broader market trends.
Yes.
And of course, Merck's stock price, it's a dynamic situation, and that's what makes investing so fascinating.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to stay informed and do your own research. The market is constantly changing.
Yeah.
What looks like a sure thing today Could be a completely different story tomorrow.
Wow.
Investing, it's not a passive activity.
Right.
You got to stay engaged.
Yeah.
And be ready to adapt to new information.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, everyone, this is just a snapshot of what's happening with Merck.
Yeah.
We've explored some key factors based on the research that you sent over.
Absolutely.
But there's always more to learn and consider.
It's important to never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Right.
And to always do your due diligence before making any decisions.
Exactly. Due diligence is key. You mentioned it briefly before, but can you expand on what due diligence actually means for our listeners?
Sure. It's about taking the time to really understand the company,
Okay.
their financials, their management team, the competitive landscape, and of course, the regulatory environment they operate in.
So it's not just about, gut feeling.
Yeah.
It's about informed decision-making.
Absolutely. And there are resources out there to help you with this, financial news websites, analyst reports, company filings.
Right.
These can all provide valuable insights.
And don't forget about the power of community.
Oh, yeah.
Talking to other investors.
Absolutely.
Sharing ideas and perspectives.
That's right.
Really broadens your understanding.
For sure. It's all about continuous learning in this world of investing. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to navigate those market twists and turns.
Couldn't agree more. So there you have it, folks. Look at Merck.
Yeah.
A company at crossroads. Strong performance.
Yeah.
Clashing with those market trends.
A company worth watching. If the price dips further, it could be a prime buying opportunity. But the key is to stay informed and watch how things unfold.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Investing Talk Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with your fellow investors, and leave us a comment with your thoughts on Merck. Are you bullish or bearish on the stock?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you.